And we're live. Howdy, everyone, and howdy to Cash and Venu. How you both doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks.
Yeah, I'm all right. How are you, Fazan?
Yeah, I'm okay. As a neutral, I'm not too fussed, to be honest with you. Just want to see some good cricket. After this whole dust bowl situation. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. The pitch is just rubbish. Can't even play on it. Like one Indian. No, I'm just joking. As an Indian fan, though, you must be happy. I mean, a very quick end to a match, let's say, but at the end of the day, India won. So, what are your initial thoughts?
Yeah, it was a thrashing, of course, over, 300 runs loss is huge. What I would say is the whole question of the Dust Bowl is really about the skills, actually. This is one of the things. And the certain players showed that if you kind of utilize the right skills, you're going to do well, right? So we saw that with Rohit in the first innings. That was crucial. But then we saw with Ashwin in his second innings. So and we saw it with Ashwin in the spinning as well, right? So in the batting and the bowling, actually. And he justly got the man of the match. So I feel like it was. We can maybe talk about the pitch more broadly in a bit, but I felt like it was a very good Indian performance and it was a very bad England performance. Both happened at the same time.
Yeah, 100%. I think it coincided with each other. England didn't play particularly well, and India played very well, and then the pitch as well. And they kind of had a bit of a moan about it, I think. And I don't know if the players did. To be fair, Root said after that they should have just dealt with it, and I think they should have really realised that India are going to put out at least one strip like this, and they're entitled to. Me and Venu talked about this. Like they're really entitled to. They're the home side. They can do what they want really, as long as they're not cheating, which they're not. So it doesn't really matter to me. Like England just needed to adapt, and they didn't. They've got some inexperienced players in India that haven't played before, the likes of Dan Lawrence, Rory Burns, Dom Sibley, Ollie Pope. I mean, that's what four of your kind of top six. So that's not ideal, but again, they've got a lot of talent. So I think they'll be slightly aggrieved a little bit that they didn't do better. I think it's hard to put blame on the bowlers too much. Just because if you look at the scores, and I know it's a bowler-friendly pitch, but I mean to get bowled out for 134 or 164 it's just poor. Like it doesn't unless I know it was ragging quite a bit, but the fact that India, like as we mentioned before, and Cashew said, like India got 329. If Ashwin can get 100 at number 8, then the England batsman can do better. I think so. A bit of poor application in my eyes, and yeah, a real thrashing. India won by 317 runs, which is a bigger margin than even the first test match, which I said was a thrashing really as well. And here it's just flipped on its head, and it sets up, I think, the series quite nicely for a different venue and also different conditions in Ahmedabad in the third and fourth test, especially with the day nights coming up as well. Venue is a neutral, although I think you're an England fan, kind of.
Yeah, I am an England fan because I was born here. So,
what do you think? What did you think of the whole test match?
Yeah, disappointing really from England. I think Rohit batted really well the first innings, and everyone was saying this is a really good score. 300 plus was a really good score on that pitch. And yes, there was that whole debate about whether a pitch like that should behave like that on the first day. But I'm all for it. I just think if England batted better, then we wouldn't be having this conversation. And you're hearing these English pundits, making a big deal of the pitch. I'm just thinking, get a grip. Just get a grip, move on, talk about something else. And just very disappointing from the English batsmen, especially after they performed so well, especially Joe Root performed so well in the first test match. So, yeah, and as Cash made a good point, and also you made a good point, Faisal, I think England didn't bowl too badly. The batsmen really let them down.
Yeah, 100%. I think the bowlers didn't bowl too badly. we'll go on to the whole Moeen situation later. I want to see if we can get a few people on so we can have a nice little debate and discussion, because I'm sure people have differing views, which is fine. But I think not just on his performance, but the whole kind of media circus that's kind of gone around it as well.
Would you say he was England's best player?
So initially,
maybe save it to later when we have this debate.
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah, I think so. But I think my initial thoughts are yes. If you look at the stat, like he is. I mean, he got the same number of wickets as Ashwin,
and
but he
leading
didn't score
runs
100. He got 43. But Ashwin got 100. So obviously Ashwin is man of the match, and rightly so. Like, fantastic. Let's talk about Ashwin actually, because I think he's in the top 3 all-rounders in the world, no doubt, right? Him, Jason Holder, and Ben Stokes. Like, it's not even close. I don't think anyone else touches that 3. They can be the big 3 of the all-rounders, I think, at the moment. And like, Ravi Ashwin's definitely staking a claim to be number 1 potentially. I mean, in Australia, he was very good, I think, with the ball. He got a few runs, not too many though. But here, obviously, in home conditions, we know how good he is, and I think he just really confirmed that. And the 100, I thought was really, really good, almost as good as Rohit Sharma's 160. Because I think the scenario at the time and the point in the match where we were, it was an important knock to really put India in command. Cash, what are your thoughts on Ashwin? I'm assuming you're a big fan.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. He's up there. I think his batting has been lagging recently. And he specifically talked, I think, about the Sydney test. And he said he'd been kind of working really hard to get back into the zone. And he felt like it came together in Australia a little bit. And then this innings was like kind of cementing it. What I would say is, I think you have to put Jadeja actually in that bracket, because I think
that's
I think
true, actually.
He's kind of underrated to some degree because he has Ashwin next to him, right? If it was Jadeja,
I think he's a slightly better batsman, isn't he?
Yeah,
maybe not as good a bowler.
But he's a very controlled bowler.
He is.
Maybe
he doesn't take as many wickets.
Yeah. I mean, it's difficult if Ashwin's taking all the wickets.
Yeah, that's true. I feel like he probably ties down the end, doesn't he? And then Ashwin just cleans up from the other end. That's probably what happens. But yeah, he's definitely underrated, though, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, but interestingly, we saw in this innings, or this Test match, we saw Akshay Patel played a very similar role actually. Little bit younger, but not that young. He's 27, and he did a really good role. He fulfilled his duties, and I think he really showed on debut that he's a really good. I wouldn't even say for the future. For now, he's really good.
Yeah, I agree. I think India they've got a lot of strength and depth, haven't they, in their squad? Venu, we mentioned this about New Zealand, for example, are a good example. England in the white ball setup. I think England in Test matches to a degree as well. But India, I think, if you look at the plethora of fast bowlers they've got, it's incredible. But even spinners now, I think you're seeing people like Akshay Patel come in for Jadeja, and they just pick up a fifer and get runs, and it's easy pickings really. We've got a few questions actually here. Let's have a look. Charles says, "Thank you for joining." He says England lacks application of mind. The second they saw the pitch and what it was doing, they just gave up. Yeah, so we touched upon this, and I think Venu made a really good point, and he just said you got to get on with it. I think, unfortunately, is a mixture of mentality and also inexperience with some of the batsmen for sure. But you do have some experienced players in there. So I think Root will be a bit disappointed he didn't get any runs in this Test match after the type of form he's been in. But again, I don't think you can put all the blame on Root, because he's been so fantastic for the first 3 Test matches of the year so far. To expect him to then score big again, like it's tough, right? Like he will have one Test match where you might not score runs. He might even have 2, and he needs other people to bat around him. And unfortunately, they didn't do that. Yeah, go on.
That's your point, Fizz. It'd be interesting to see if England win a Test match the rest of this series. 2 more left in Ahmedabad. If Joe Root doesn't perform, can England still control the Test match? Can they get into a winning position? And that's my only question for England at the moment.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think there's big question marks over Rory Burns, I think, because he looked quite good in the second innings. He was on 25 and he just played a silly shot, really. And
where else are the runs going to come from?
So Sibley's got some runs, but I think he hasn't been super consistent, I would say. Are they going to be praying and hoping that Zach Crawley comes back? Because even though he wasn't super effective in Sri Lanka, he's the type of player that will take on the spinners. So he'll go one of two ways. He'll either get 10, 15 or single digits, or he'll go big and he'll get 70, 80, 90, and or more. So I think he's a type of player. Ollie Pope, it seems like quite a good player. But really for me, and I mentioned this at the start and he's really let me down, Ben Stokes. I said he's going to be the leading run scorer, and it was a left field choice, let's say, and he's completely just said, well, Fazan, what are you talking about? You're an idiot. Why did you pick me? Because I'm rubbish in Indian conditions, apparently. So I'm hoping that he's going to prove me wrong because he's such a talented player, isn't he?
Yeah, but I think the problem with Ben Stokes is Ashwin's got his number. Ashwin's got his number, and Stokes doesn't know what to do. And then the second issue is if Ben Stokes isn't making runs, he barely bowled in this Test match, so he's basically in there as a specialist batsman getting 0 runs. Which means I know we said earlier that, or you were saying, Fazan, we can't blame the English bowlers, but there was, I felt, a lack of variety that they only really could rely on the 2 spinners and Ollie Stone. Broad got no wickets, and Stokes didn't bowl, so effectively didn't bowl. So it was, whereas if you had Anderson there, I think he would have been more of an impact. And then, I don't know why not put in if Stokes isn't going to get he's not going to bowl really, and he's not going to bat very well. Why don't you just put in another bowler? Or why don't you? Do you know what I mean? It doesn't.
Yeah, I think he gives balance, doesn't he? That's what he's supposed to be. He's supposed to be that balancer in the team because he gives overs. But as you just said, he was too busy doing handstands. And again, I'm not trying to be critical. It's just funny, right? Like he was doing handstands. And to be fair, it's really impressive. I'll never be able to do that. He was doing walking handstands. I should have really got a picture and put it up, but I'm sure everyone's seen it. I mean, just ridiculous. Guy is super fit. But look, I mean, he's seen as like having bit of a golden arm. And then when he comes on, he'll get wickets. But England didn't really put much faith in him. I know it's a bit of as we said, a dust bowl, whatever it might be. But I just think on the whole, you need to think about, you need to sometimes change up, and sometimes seam bowlers can get wickets. And I think maybe they were too much, I guess, obsessed with the spinners. And even if it means Stokes ties down an end and creates a bit of pressure and it's just tight, that's fine. But I think I agree with you. He didn't really give much, did he, in this Test match? And he'll be looking at himself to think they'll be hoping that Ahmedabad is going to be more green and under the lights, he should be more effective. But really, it's going to be Anderson and Broad they'll look to with the pink ball under lights. But yeah, 100%. I think Stokes needs to do better. There was some interesting questions here, actually. Thoughts on the pitch? I think we touched upon that. I think what I would add is it's not great for a neutral point of view because I think either way you're probably not going to get 5 days on this pitch. But look, it could have gone either way. I know, of course, as the home nation, of course, they've got slight advantage. But again, it's their prerogative to do that. So there shouldn't be a massive issue around it. I just think it's not particularly great to watch. But again, who cares? Because as a team, you just want to win the match. So I think India would prefer to win it on day 4 than day 5, wouldn't they? So they don't care.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's 2 things for me, isn't it? It's one, there is a problem. It probably won't get to day 5, which is a problem. But then 2 is the best players rise to the occasion, and so a lot of the Indian players or the Indian media are saying, "Look, we go to Lords and we get a green top," and for us, the seaming ball under overcast conditions often is harder. Is one of the hardest things that they have to face in cricket for them, right? Because you just don't get those conditions at all in India, and a lot of them have adapted to that, and it's taken them a long time, right, to hold their own. Do
you think, as you mentioned about the conditions in India, they started putting in drop-in pitches? Do you think in England they should start having drop-in pitches?
So
like they do in India.
What does drop-in pitch mean?
So drop-in pitches, for example, in India, to make sure that the pitches are don't all play very similarly. So a dust bowl, for example,
Mhm.
it's just all for the spinners. That they've started putting in drop-in pitches where you basically just, it might be like a green top, and it doesn't matter about the makeup of the ground. You basically just put a layer on top. I'm very shaking his head, but you put a layer on top, and what it means is that, for example, the Indians at the moment, and I do think this is probably why they've got more fast bowlers in this generation, is because they're not just playing on flat wickets that are turning, but they're playing on some that are giving a little bit more to the seamers. They still will turn on a day 4, day 5, even maybe day 3, but it just gives a little bit more, and it's more like a pitch that you get here, for example, but in those humid conditions. So it's kind of like a little bit of a mix.
Yeah.
And whereas here, obviously, the pitches are all pretty similar, right? And you have that in most countries, and I think that adds to the intrigue when you're an away team coming to it. But I'm more looking at it from the perspective of developing players in the county game. Do you think that necessarily? I think they've got the skills to play spin, but the conditions, because there's so many inexperienced players, they come into it, and then it's a case of you just got to learn straight away, and you're kind of in the deep end. That was kind of my question. Do you think maybe we should prepare better for conditions? I mean, I know they go England Lions tours and stuff, but it's a bit different.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. And like even Leach was talking about Taunton, right, which is maybe the one ground known to be a little bit of a dust bowl, a bit of a. I think they even got. I think some
deducted points. Yeah,
doing that, right? Which is interesting. That's a bit. I don't sure how I feel about that. But I guess I think that's an interesting idea, and I think it might make more rounded players. I guess it would just be how it works out in practice. Like, what does that mean for the quality of the grounds, more generally, and also it makes sense as well if the game is getting, we're seeing more and more county players going and playing franchise cricket around the world. So in a way, it will help them to be able to go and do that as well, right?
I think, I agree with you 100%, and I think actually a lot of players, like I've talked, I talked to Daniel Bell Drummond recently, and he said that he's played in the LPL and like he played in the T10 recently. He said he's not a huge fan of the T10, but obviously he took the opportunity because as a player, like it's a good experience. And then he also said that he played for Auckland in New Zealand, so he played in the T20 comp there, and also I think a couple of one-day stuff. So even if it means going to a different country just to play for the equivalent of a county, it helps. Venu, though, I want to go to you because you were shaking your head about me talking about the drop-in pitches. So I'm expecting a rant to be incoming here. So do you want to go?
Just keeping it short. I don't agree with drop-in pitches. Just don't agree with them. I just think it takes away. I think every ground needs to have its own pitch, has its own character. And I think the issue of having drop-in pitches is that it kind of takes the character away from each stadium. And yeah, that's what I think. And I think, what's the word? I think cricket becomes quite one-dimensional. So you can only, and I think it's not good for the game. Okay,
interesting. No, I see your point of view. So Charles saying here, basically what the BCCI did is about 4 to 5 years back, they made it mandatory to have like X amount of inches of grass on all Ranji Trophy and List A pitches. So I guess what it meant is that in day 1, at least, there was a bit more for the seamers. And then as the day progressed, obviously, it just became into what it would normally be. Interesting that they did that. Usher said here, Moeen Ali replacement equals Bess or one of the reserve ones. Who I'm assuming that Bess is going to come in. They've already announced the squad for the 3rd Test match. They might even, Cashew said they might go with one spinner. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to leave that question for a bit later when we preview it, because that's going to be an interesting topic for debate. Basha says here, I like drop-in pitches. Yeah. And Charles says here, based on my observation, Benny's like, you're wrong. Based on my observation, my criticism isn't too much on English batsmen skill levels, but the attitude they had when they played. Very clumsy, but scared and unplanned.
Yeah, but what I'll say is, did any batsman complain when it comes to England and say, we got low score because we're feeling swinging ball. I don't think they complain. I just think, and I don't think Indian media complain. I think they just get on with it. And I think England's attitude needs to change. And that you've written the right word there, Achal. It's the attitude, and I think it's quite some bit of arrogance as well from the England players and England management as well. Like, this is bound to happen. This is bound to happen. So why didn't they plan for this and actually, during the winter season, actually played a lot more against spin? Or, I just think
they should have played an extra test match in Sri Lanka. That would have helped, wouldn't it?
100, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'm smiling, but it's true. Like, it's true. It really is. I just think, as you said, mentality is a huge thing. Achal, you mentioned that in Venu as well. Totally agree with you. I concur that the attitude obviously wasn't right. They didn't adjust accordingly. They thought it was going to be exactly the same as the first test match. It clearly wasn't, and they just need to get on with it, really. And what are they expecting? I mean, India have a track record of, if they're going to lose the first test match, you're always going to get at least one pitch that's like this, and that's just a characteristic of Indian pitches.
My thing actually is there is a skill issue to some degree. Okay, there's some inexperience, obviously, with some of the top order players. But when you look at the averages, the only people who average over 40 is Root and I believe Folks, right? Whereas all of the Indian top order are averaging over 40.
Yeah, there is. You're right. I think if you look at the overall ability, there is definitely a gap there. I think Root has definitely, maybe he's papered over the cracks a little bit at the start of this year. And we were talking about, they've got a lot of talented younger players, but
all of them have put in like a really good 100 or a really good 200. We've seen that with most of the English top order. The problem is they don't do it consistently, right? So they just get out.
Yeah, I agree. It's inconsistency. And Venu, what were you going to say?
So as Cash made a good point there, and also Youth is on it. I think it's consistency. The last 3 test matches, take away Joe Root's performance. Okay, imagine Joe Root just scored 20 runs each test match. Would England have won? I don't think England would have won last test match if it wasn't for Joe Root's performance. And I do think Joe Root, because he's on a fantastic run of form, he's scoring so many runs. I think he's kind of covering the of England batsmen. I think his performances are,
they're papering over the cracks.
Yeah, that's the word I was trying. That's the phrase I was trying to get to. So thanks, Fazan. Yeah, he's definitely papering over the cracks. So yeah, we'll see how they do next test match, but it is an issue. And Ben Stokes hasn't really performed. And as you said, Fazan, you thought he'll be your leading run scorer at the moment, and Cash has said he's not been bowling much. So my question is, and I'm going to save this for later, but it seems that Moeen Ali is going to be the bigger loss to the team than Ben Stokes is at the moment.
Yeah, he is. I think in these conditions, I think I agree with you, Venu. I really do. I 100% agree with you. Just because, especially in Chennai on this pitch, like 100%. We'll see whether in Ahmedabad it is. But
where's it to Ben Stokes? I've heard nothing. About Ben Stokes, and I do think Ben Stokes seems as some sort of superhero, and you can't touch him. And I think we'll see. After the next test match, if he doesn't perform, there better be some people that are criticizing him in the media.
I think, it's difficult, I think, for me, because I kind of have sympathy for the players. I know that they're under a lot of pressure. I don't necessarily want to see people get bashed in the media, but I feel like it's part and parcel of being a player. I think it needs to be fair. It needs to be fair, I think, is what it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah, so as in each player gets treated fairly, and I think it needs to be consistent, doesn't it, with each player, which we're going to touch upon. And Ashraf, this is a good segue. Who was the best player from England's standpoint in this test match? And I think,
100%.
Yeah, in my point of view, it was Moeen Ali.
No, actually,
8 wickets. Yeah, who do you think?
Potentially Ben Folkes. He was fantastic behind.
Yeah, that's a good point. So Ben Folkes got. Let's have a look. He took 2 catches in the first innings, 1 stumping, and then he took. He ended up taking 4 stumpings, 2 catches, and a run out.
Yeah, he's a
I believe more than Butler's ever taken.
Yeah.
So,
Well, Butler's only taken 1 stumping in his whole Test career, I think.
and Ben Stokes has already taken 5, and Ben Stokes is playing maybe his 4th or 5th Test match, and Butler's played a lot more than him. But it just shows the 2 best players for England were Stokes and Moeen Ali. Probably the 2 players who I feel have been managed the worst by England management.
So Ben Stokes behind the stumps. Ben Stokes behind the stumps is like watching the Flash. Like he's just so bloody quick at getting the stumps off. The bails off is incredible. I mean, he's a pleasure to watch. And Venu, you and I are big Surrey fans, and we've said it. Like we just think he's quality, and he really is. And I just think let's see how the rest of the series goes. And I think it's a discussion to be had, as we said, Venu. But if he performs really well, like you can't put him out of the team. They probably will, but I don't think you can.
Do you think they'll put Bairstow in instead?
No, they can't do that. If they do that, I will refuse to watch an England match.
But what I think they'll do is they'll do their classic. Oh, actually, I think we should give Butler the gloves because he can play in all conditions, kind of thing, and we need to stick with him. They've got this very I think very what's the word? Kind of twisted way of thinking that Butler has to keep because he's going to give me runs, and then actually I don't need to give Ben Stokes the gloves because then it frees up another spot, and they kind of see Ben Stokes as a liability really, and they think actually basically they don't put a merit on Ben Stokes' keeping. I don't think they put a lot of emphasis on it. I don't think they think it's a massive deal at all.
Yeah, I think there's a difficulty here and they've talked about the England setup. They have Root as the captain, but obviously Root has seemed to be a bit of a fragile captain. He's a little bit, he doesn't really want to be captain. There's been question marks. Butler is his kind of second in command, his brains, as they say. And then Stokes is his other one, who's maybe the more heart player. So then you've got this kind of system of these 3 players who are just untouchable, right? And Root, I understand, but the other 2, bit of a problem.
But Stokes, because of the heading he knocked, they'll never drop him for years. No, I'm serious. That's how much he's revered. But he's a fantastic cricketer. I think maybe let's take one step back because I feel like people listening might think we're haters of Stokes. We're not. I think it's just I know what you're trying to say. You're trying to say that obviously no player should be bigger than the team, and obviously it should be based on their merit in terms of performances. And I think that's the right way to say it. And talking of performances, Moeen Ali, my boy, Mo. I don't know what his middle name is, so I won't make one up.
It's Moeen Munir Ali.
Moeen Munir Ali. Yeah, fantastic. He put on a fantastic display. I mean, I said to you guys that I was having massive debates and arguments with people after his first innings where where they were like, "Oh, great bowling by Moeen. He went for 100, but for the other team and all this rubbish." And I just said, "Well, what do you expect from someone who's not played Test cricket for 18 months to suddenly walk in and then get a fifer for 2 and over? That's never going to happen." So I think they should have been happy with a 4-for, and he picked up Kohli and Rahane in the first innings. He picked up Kohli and Rahane in the second innings too, and he was even tighter in the second one. Went for just over 3 and over. So 8 wickets in the match. I think Jack Leach deserves an honourable mention because he bowled well as well. He picked up 4 in the second. I think it was 2 in the first. So 6 for him, 8 for Moeen, and then we've got to talk about this knock of 43 off 18. I mean, it's almost like he thought he was playing IPL. What was going on? He was in Chennai and he heard the crowd and he thought, "Is this IPL?" Okay, and he just came and started slapping it everywhere. And 5 sixes, 3 4s. Go on.
Well, put it into context, he was batting with the tail, so he had to go for, and the game was gone.
Yeah, he had to. No. I think in context, it doesn't mean a whole lot. Obviously, in terms of the match result, it means nothing. But I think if you look at it from a point of view of, did he take it to the Indians, and also did he give himself a bit of form, and also shut up some of the critics? I think he did. And I think 43 off 18 doesn't matter what the match situation is. In a Test match, and batting with the tails is a mighty effort. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again: if you put him at 8, he'll bat like an 8, and that's how an 8 will bat. And he'll come off now and then, But like, if they want him to bat like a top 5 batsman, then they need to put him in the top 5. Because if you bat with the tail, he's not going to just hang around and start blocking out and thinking, okay, I'm going to stay here for ages. And that's the role he's been given. And a strike rate of 238 is a pretty insane. But he just took on the spinners, and I think he showed really the England batsmen how to play spin a little bit. I think they struggled, obviously, as we know, but I think that knock showed it a little bit. And it's tough. It's tough to really say. Ben Foakes played really well in the first innings, Venu, as you said. I thought he was really, really impressive as well. And they were the standouts for me. Yeah, what do you guys think of Moeen Ali's, I guess, performance first? Let's see.
Not bad considering he was away from the England Test setup for 18 months. 8 wickets, scored some runs in the second innings. Yeah, I thought he was England's best player, maybe close with Foakes.
Yeah, I think it's always good to see Moeen play well. It was good to see him just play, actually. And look, the 43, some jokes saying, oh, IPL auction's coming up. He's just showing off and this, that, and the other. But, as you said, he just went for it. He saw it was there. He saw the ball wasn't maybe doing as much as, or he saw that if you come and you go for the bowlers, then the ball does less, right? That's just one of those things, isn't it? Which Rohit was showing, and what certain players were showing, that when you come forward, attack the ball, you're in control a lot more. So look, good for him. Good for him with the bowling as well. Look, he held up his end and he got wickets, so you can't really ask for much more.
No, you can't. I agree. And Ashraf says here, Ben Foakes on Moeen is the best, which I think we all three of us agree. And he said dropped a few catches though. Foakes did. I think he dropped. I think it was one missed stumping, wasn't it, and a drop catch. So I'll probably go for Moeen too. Fair enough. But I think Foakes was still exemplary. I think.
They were really hard though. The ball was turning like mad when he was doing that.
Yeah, it's not easy conditions to keep in, is it? So yeah.
And he was standing up to Broad, wasn't he?
Yeah, which is insane. I was saying this to Venu, and Venu asked me yesterday. He said, as a batsman, does that put pressure on you when you have a keeper that good or someone that can stand up? And I said, yeah, because it means that you can't bat outside your crease. And I'm someone who likes to utilize the crease, and a lot of batsmen do anyway, especially if you have someone who isn't bowling express and it's not really coming on, then sometimes you want to bat outside your crease, or even go back into your crease and kind of utilize the crease like a bowler does, so you can mess up a bowler's length. But you can't do that if the keeper's standing up, and especially if you have a keeper who's so good at keeping to spin, then it makes you think twice about coming down the track to hit the spinners. So I think that needs to be kind of bared in mind, or borne in mind even, when thinking about Foakes. So I think he was really, really impressive. Charles says here, you play as a team. If England had given itself a chance, they could have scored 250 in the first innings just by being aggressive. It's a team sport, not individuals. He says it's a myth that you need one or two batsmen to put up a huge score in India. You can have a team of 40 odds and still win a test match. Yeah, that's a good point. What do you guys think of that?
Yeah, 40. You need 6 players to score 40. 40 times 6 is 240. That would have been decent in the first innings for England.
Quick maths.
I kind of agree with that, but and we saw that with Foakes, for instance, getting kind of 45 not out or something like that. Look, they just didn't know how to bat. They were just totally the way that the top order used to batting, particularly the openers, Sibley and Burns, is very slowly. They dig in, they sit there, they do this thing. We quite like it, as at least as proper test people. We like to watch them play like that. But unfortunately, they didn't understand the spinning ball at all. So it was they just got out straight away. Second innings, both of them tried a little bit more. They tried to come to the ball a little bit more. And it was a bit more effective. But they still got out for under 40. And as we said, only Foakes and Root are averaging 40 anyway. So it would be above all of the averages.
Yeah, no, I agree. Really hard to disagree with that. Agree, Cash, 100%. Yeah, it's a difficult one. I think just poor application. And then Charles says here, expect a dead pitch in Ahmedabad. It'll seem a bit more than Chennai, but won't be as dry and dusty like this one. I played here my whole life, my city. Oh, come on, Charles. We need to get a couple of you need to send in some videos in the comments or something. Show us you batting in Ahmedabad. Are you talking about the actual pitch, or I'm assuming he's talking about the local clubs? But no, that's interesting. Yeah. So actually, when the test matches are expected to be on, giving us expert advice about the conditions and how it should be playing. But I think, yeah, I mean, it's going to be under lights with a pink ball. I think initially with a pink ball, under the lights, it'll do a bit. It always does. As we saw in Australia, it doesn't matter what conditions, it'll do something under the lights. So Broad and Anderson will do it. Go on, Venu.
Can we talk about the permutations both teams need to get into the final?
Yeah, go on, Venu. Do you want to say?
Yeah, so basically it's 1-1 now in the series. Two test matches to go. So this loss for England have made it a bit of hard work for them to get to the final, to overtake Australia. And because New Zealand have booked themselves in the finals, it's between Australia, England and India at the moment. So what India have to do, they just need to win the series by any margin, so they could have a draw and a win. And so they'll go to the final if they win 2-1 or 3-1. But England, they have to win the next 2 test matches. And anything less, they'll be out. So
and 2-2 means Australia goes through.
And how about 1-1?
I'm not sure. I think Australia as well. Yeah.
So it seems it's probably going to be likely after this performance, and that India will probably go through to the final.
You never know. You never know. After the first test match, we thought England were in. Look, I'm not going to write off England. And I know we're kind of being doom and gloom, but I know India at home. But I'll stick with my 2-2 prediction because
other than Joe Root, who's batted well for England?
It doesn't matter. I think they've got enough talent. It just takes one player to step up. And I'm not saying it might not happen. It might not happen. It's just I just think that surely on one of the test matches, either a batsman or, for example, the day-nighter.
Yeah.
I mean, Anderson and Broad are surely going to cause havoc with the new ball. And then it's just how well can they do once there's not the lights are not on and also the ball's not doing as much. That will be the key. And the issue is, I think Moeen would have done a decent job. He's not there though. It's going to be down to Leach, I think, or Bess if they play 2. Interesting to see what they do there. Do they bring in someone like Wokes, who could be quite effective with a pink ball? I don't know. It's just, but as Charles saying here, it's going to be pretty dead. So after, I guess, that initial burst that we'll see from the seamers, I think. But yeah, I think, I don't know. I just have a feeling that England will be able to win one. It might be the second one after they adapt. But I feel like they are a good enough side. They're batting, though, as Cash said. They don't bat as well as India. It's proven. The stats, I think, say it all. But they're a bit more inexperienced as well.
Yeah, and it's a bit like last test we were saying, Rohit and Rahane didn't make any runs. Do you remember?
Yeah.
And we were like, well, if one of them doesn't do well, there'll be questions. First innings of this test, they both made runs, big runs. So, that just shows that it's a team sport and different players step up at different points.
Yeah, no, I agree. Go on, what were you going to say?
You're going to have all Australian fans are going to be supporting England over the next 2 test matches.
But yes. Well, no, they'll be supporting them for one of them and hoping that India win the next one because they need 2-2.
Yeah. Wait, I think even 2-1 England might go Australia's way.
Yeah, but I must. Oh, 2. So yeah. Asha's saying you're right. So 2. Okay, so 2-1 England and 1-1 and 2-2 is Australia.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I'd be surprised if there's a draw. I don't know. I just feel like there's not going to be a draw. I mean, in the pink baller, surely there'll be no draw.
But out of all the 3 teams, England, Australia, and India, it seems that India are probably in best position to qualify at the moment, and maybe Australia 2nd place and England 3rd place. We'll see. So many permutations, hey.
Yeah.
Fazan has a fantastic batting record. I think he should do batting technique videos. Maybe when after COVID, maybe, or when it starts calming down. I could do my back garden, but yeah, we'll have to see. We'll have to see. Maybe I have to rope my brother into filming me, but then I'll watch the video and it'll look rubbish. Then I'll just delete it and not post it. That's what will happen. Yeah, he's saying about that. And he says 3 players stepped up against New Zealand. Rizwan, Faheem, and Fard. Pakistan still lost. So not just one player to step up, right? Yeah, I agree. I think what I meant more is, I don't know. I just think the bowlers will do quite well. The seamers, I think they'll do decently well, especially in the next one. I think more it's a question of you only really need one player to go big. Or as Charles said, maybe you just need a couple, 5, 6 players to get 40s in the tail to wag a little bit, and you're at 300, 350. So that's not an issue either. But yeah, I think 100%. It's not just one player as well. Let's talk about Cash while we're here. Maybe the circus around Moeen, because initially, obviously, he was supposed to. Well, they said, we need to. He said, look, initially the plan was, I'm going to leave after the first 2 tests. Well, the ECB agreed that with him. They said after the first 2 tests, you'll leave because, I think he was going to play the Sri Lanka series and then the first 2 tests. Obviously, you got COVID, which isn't ideal, which I'm assuming wasn't a particularly nice ordeal. I think he said as well, which makes sense. And then after that, he played this test match, performed quite well. As we said, now, as agreed, he's supposed to go home. But England have asked him, do you want to stay? And obviously it's put him in a bit of a no-win situation, because if he stays, then he doesn't get to go home and spend a bit of time with his family, which is obviously what he initially planned to do. And if he doesn't stay, then as what's happening in the media, they're saying Moeen chooses not to stay. And there's a lot of backlash. I think Michael Vaughan said, while we're chopping and changing our team, like Moeen has only played 1 test in 18 months, was leaving. People saying, is this his test career over? I think Joe Root got asked the question, like, is this Moeen Ali's test career over? And he said, why would it be his test career over? What's your thoughts on the whole situation?
I don't know, man. There's so much to get into, isn't there? I think, like, the fact that Root said he chose to leave was the revealing thing, and whether that was because he just misspoke and he wasn't meant to say that. You've lost the game and you're doing the interviews, and maybe something's just happened. They probably only just recently asked him as well, right? So, or if it was more calculated, then that's much worse, actually. In either case, the ECB or Root haven't come out and apologized about it, because it hangs them out to dry. It hangs them out to the wolves. It basically says, look, you don't care about England. You're not in the test setup. Like, it's a kind of passive aggression, isn't it? It's effectively saying, like, without calling him out, it's calling him out, right?
Well, it seems, as you said, it seems like they're saying, like, the fact that they've asked him kind of means, okay, if you don't play, it's almost like a bit of a threat, almost, that, okay, do you want to play? And if you don't play, then next thing you know, the medias are like, oh, hold on, his test career is over. And it seems like by Root even saying it's not, I think he said, why would it be over? But then he said, it's not over by, I think he said something like, it's not completely over.
Yeah,
or something
he said
like,
the door's not entirely shut.
Yes, which means that the door's slightly shut. So why is it slightly shut after performance? So then it makes me think, hold on, they're basically saying that because he's chosen his family over everything else, and that was already agreed, that, they're saying, well, hold on, why can't you? And also, like, we forget he had COVID. That would have been horrible. Like, he's just been there for a very long time, and he hasn't played much cricket. He finally got to play a match, but he's been there for ages, and it was agreed already. So I just think, I'm just going to say it, to be honest with you, it just comes across as just being very, and I feel like his whole treatment, and I think, I don't want to talk about it too much here because I think you could probably do a whole video on it. But like this has just been the case with Moeen for his whole career, that he's been under, immense scrutiny and criticism from ex-players, media, and then that's trickled down to fans as well. And it just comes across as singling out. And like as I've said to people, like we know why, and like there's examples of people who, are not the archetypal Brit, like they're ethnic minority, and then they've been treated differently. And there's, just to name a few, Bapara, Panesar, Away Shah, like, and these are examples of people that I know haven't been given the same like go as some other players, and then they've continued to perform well in county cricket, but they just never got a look back in. So it just kind of stinks to me of, what is kind of convenient. And I think even if he had performed well in the Sri Lanka and then played the first 2 test matches, I think they would have asked him the same question, and this same situation probably would have happened. But I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I mean, you got to put in context that if he had stayed on, he would be going straight into also the T20 internationals, and then he would probably be going straight to IPL. So he would be away for about 5 months, and he has a young family at home. He's had COVID, and they've decided, look, we have these kind of mentally rigorous bubbles. They're really difficult for these players. They're not. It's not a walk in the park. It's not that easy for them for such long periods of time. We know that he's had problems in the England setup before, so it makes a lot of sense that he'd want time away from it, right? Imagine you've gone from not being in it at all for 18 months. Okay, he's been in ODIs and so on, or he's been in white ball cricket. But imagine, you haven't been in a test setup, and all of a sudden, like, you have to be in and amongst these people, some of whom you probably have had some issues with, for 3 months. It's look, if you get, and he's look, the other thing to say is he's not getting that much time off. He's getting about 10 days. He's back on a flight on the 26th.
Yeah, people forget he's going to be back for the T20s.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really, like, they're saying it like, oh, he's going on a holiday. Like, no, he's just going to see his family for like 10 days, and then he's going to be back in India anyway. So he just wants a bit of a break. And considering that, he's probably thinking to himself, I had COVID, and then I didn't play in the first test match. That time I could have been at home. So especially the time when he wasn't playing, like, he's probably thinking, like, why the heck am I here? And then he finally gets picked, and then he's probably thinking to himself, well, it's convenient for you, yeah, like, but I've been here for ages, so why am I going to stay? Asha, what do you think of the whole situation before we move on to some of the questions?
The Moeen Ali situation? Well, I think it's hilarious, but at the same time, I just want to add that fair enough, man. It's up to him, right? It was, as I think Venu said before, that it was predetermined that he was going to be off for the next 2 test matches. It's not his fault he got COVID, right? It's not his fault they didn't pick him for the first game against India. He got 1 game where arguably he was the best player England had on the field, bowling and batting, right? At the end of it. And he has to go back because that was predetermined. That's how it was set up. He probably planned, who knows, in these 10 days, maybe he has to sort out everything to do with his family, right? Who knows what he has to do at home. So I think all power to him in that case. I just feel bad for England.
Yeah, I mean, Butler did the same thing. He left after the first test, and he's got a family and stuff as well, and he's going to be back for the T20s. He's missing 3 of the test matches. And actually, something that really annoyed me is, and actually I've got it here, there's two different quotes, right? One's in relation to Jos Buttler, and one's in relation to Moeen Ali, okay? So the first one is, I really hope Jos Buttler stays for at least a second test. After such a wonderful team performance, surely England will want to keep this group together. Mr. ODIs and T20s, winning the test series in India will mean so much more. Then the next statement is, I thought test cricket was the main priority after 2019 to make sure England try and get back the Ashes. About 5 exclamation points. Why is it that the test team is being stopped and changed every week where the T20 team are at full strength? Another 5 exclamation marks. Moeen now off home after 1 test in 18 months. 3 exclamation marks. Now,
Michael Vaughan?
Is that Michael Vaughan?
Yeah.
We
Fair
both
enough.
knew.
Fair enough.
But as in, does that not come across as favoritism? He didn't say, I really hope Moeen stays. He just goes, oh, Moeen now off. Butler goes, oh, I really hope he stays. Like, it's incredible.
Fazan, England won the first game. He's going to be in a positive mood. England just got hammered, right? And Moeen Ali, like I said, arguably their best player in this game, right? Going back, his emotions are probably just like skyrocketed in terms of like anger and like, why is he not staying if he's done so well? Why can't he stay? I understand what you're saying. My point of view is if England had lost the first game, he wouldn't have said the same thing about Joss Butler.
I think he would have, because he manages with Joss Butler.
I get that, but I don't think
he's part of the management company. There's no way, and he's an ex-player, so and he has favoritism towards certain players, and it's so blatant. And I disagree.
It also doesn't make sense because Butler didn't play very well in the first test.
He played crap. And why does he want to stay?
He kept well though, right?
But Ashwin, he played rubbish. He didn't get any runs,
No,
and he's better in
I
ODIs and T20s.
Oh no, he is. I agree with that. But I think what he's trying to say is, you know what Pakistan did against South Africa in the first test, right? The assumption was after the first test and the second one, they'll make some changes, even though Pakistan won the first game. But they kept the same squad or the same 11 because they were like, no, we're going to keep that winning combination going. I think that's what Michael Vaughan's kind of talking about. And that's why, because England won, he thought that they would stick with the same squad or the same 11. That's why there was a positive twist on it. The Moeen Ali one, I know what you're saying, favoritism, whatever. I don't know. So I'm just basing it on, like my observation. So what my observation is that if England had won this match, he would have seen this as, oh, that's great that England are rotating their players and they're still winning and everyone's getting rest and blah, 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 blah. So it's just dependent on the situation. That's how I see it. That's
fine. I get what you're saying. But then my point is that he wouldn't have even said then, as you just said, I really hope Moeen Ali stays. He would have said, I'm glad they're rotating. That, to me, shows the importance placed on certain players, and people forget the performances that historically have been made from different players. If you look at Test cricket, arguably Moeen Ali's done more in Test cricket for England than Joss Butler. If you look at the past, whatever it is, 5 years, right? I'm not talking about white ball cricket because Joss Butler's done a lot, but I'm talking about Test cricket. So I just think it's a bit of favoritism there, but I don't want to go on about it too much because I feel like I'm ranting. But unless you guys want to wrap up on something to do with that topic.
I don't know. I see what you're saying, Ashraf, about if they had won. If they had won, but then if they had won, Moeen might have been even more important to the win. Do you see what I mean? Like, if they had won and Best was playing, it'd be fine. Or if Best was playing well, do you know what I mean? Then there'll be no issue. Imagine how Best is feeling now. Yeah. It's all come out that they've asked behind his back that Moeen has to play again, even though he's like the sick man with COVID and he's the man out in the cold who no one wanted to play. They want him more than Best.
That's true. I get what you mean.
Yeah, I just think it's a mess. But anyway, let's move on to more cricket related. Well, it is cricket, but
I'm gonna bounce. I have to go somewhere at 7. So I'm gonna go.
You're so glad you joined just for the Moeen chat.
Oh yeah, I don't mind. The actual cricket I've just missed completely, but that's fine. It's okay. Yeah. Enjoy, please, everyone in the chat. Like, subscribe, and comment loads of nice things about Fazan, Cash, and if Venu comes back. Right. See you guys later. Take care. Bye.
So
he says here India has had most drawn games here in Ahmedabad. Okay. He said, so at least expect the game to go till day 5. That would be good. Day-night game will only help the batsman as the dew will settle as the wicket. I expect a high-scoring game. Okay. But, Charles, do you think, but initially, later on in the game, right, with the pink ball under the light, surely that will help the bowlers a little bit, right? Because normally the pink ball does like crazy things under lights. Is that the same in the Ahmedabad? Do you think it will happen, or do you think it's going to completely level out? Charles says here 40,000 tickets for the day 1 of the third test already sold out. Wow. Expect to sold out 55,000 attendance on day 1 because that's half, I think, isn't it? Can't wait. Yeah, I mean, Cash, how much of an impact do you think the crowd had in India winning this test match?
Yeah, I think it was really interesting to see like Kohli. He was kind of rousing the crowds, and we saw, in England's kind of second innings when victory was looking close, and there were these moments, old school Test cricket. We had all of people round the bat. We had lots of noise. Pant makes a lot of noise, and the crowd were making a lot of noise, and every ball could have been a wicket-taking ball with Akshay and Ashwin. Um, and Kuldeep had played his part too. So I thought it was really it brought a new intensity, and it was the first moment actually for a while. I was like, wow, I'd really love to be there. Like I'd really, because it was just a different atmosphere.
Yeah, it's great to see Test cricket where you have people around the bat and there's that pressure on the batsman, and it's fantastic. And that's why, in a way, when I think about it, people say nowadays that we're really obsessed with batting, and I think to a degree it is, but maybe it's because we're a bit more old school. But seeing that pressure on a batsman and from the bowler in the field and the crowd, and that's more to do with the bowler really and the kind of atmosphere. And that's amazing. Like it's just great cricket to see. And that's not batsmen scoring runs. That's the bowler really putting pressure on the field, and the fans all coming together, and it's amazing. It really is.
I mean, I wonder if it really affected England, because obviously we're talking about the attitude. So imagine India have got this huge score in the first innings, and then big score in the first innings for the pitch, and they've come into this pitch, the crowd's quite loud. There's a different intensity, maybe they haven't been used to for the last year or so. You can imagine it feeds that kind of planlessness that maybe we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, maybe because they haven't played with the crowd for a bit of time, and I guess these more young inexperienced players maybe it affected them quite a bit, and they just couldn't quite handle it. So it'll be interesting. I'm assuming the next Test match, obviously, they should be more accustomed to it. So interesting to see whether we see a difference there, different conditions as well. So let's see. Let's just wrap up with Virat Kohli, because I think he hasn't scored 100 as we've gone on about, but he's scoring 50s quite regularly now. Are we starting to see him get into somewhat his kind of, I guess, somewhat good form, let's say, for him anyway?
Yeah, I think he's been playing pretty well, to be honest. Like, yeah, he's not going on for the full hundreds. But look, we saw, he made some good runs this innings, this test. He got, what did he get? He got 0 in the first innings.
Yeah, and
but then he got
60 odd.
He got 62. He's the first test match he got, I think 70 odd in the second innings. Played a really good knock. Look, as we said, the Indian batting lineup is strong, the top order. So he doesn't have to come off every time. It is true, maybe he's not getting the hundreds, and the scores haven't been great. But then Rohit gets the 100 and something. Ashwin comes in with 100. Jadeja's scoring runs. Sundar was scoring runs in Australia. So there was a kind of, he can do that. It's allowable, right? And he'll come good. He'll come good at some point.
Yeah, he will. I mean, it's just a matter of time, isn't it? Really, for him, I think. I think you can only, that's a type of player, the type of player he is, which is special. I guess, to say the least, is like there's no way he's going to go 2 years without scoring 100. I think it's just a matter of time, and I think when he does go, I think he's going to go quite big as well. It will happen once this series for sure, and when it happens, I think England are going to have to weather the storm. So it'll be interesting to see how they do it. But yeah, I think it's incoming. It's inevitable to happen one of these matches for sure. And just to wrap up, Charles says absolutely, but Ahmedabad pitch historically has been kind to consistent line and length bowlers. It won't spin as much, unlike Chennai, where there was so much natural variation from the wicket. Yeah, I mean it's spun out of not even out of the foot marks; it's spun off the surface. So I don't think that you're going to see that in Ahmedabad for sure.
From the sounds of that, it might suit England a little bit more. Okay, maybe not seaming as much, but if Archer gets to play, he's going to get something out the surface. I back Anderson to get anything out of, when he's playing well, he can reverse it. And look, the thing about the batting lineup, which is maybe more of a problem for England, is they can understand that kind of pitch, and they can dig in and they can make big runs. And we know that we know that Burns can do that. We know that Sibley can do that. If Crawley plays, we know Crawley can do that. So look, if the pitch is really like that, as the child's saying, there should be some optimism actually.
Yeah, I agree. To wrap up, then, what team would you go with? If as an Indian fan, what India team would you go with?
I'm not sure. Is Bumrah back in the picture? Is he still?
I think he was rested, wasn't he? I don't think he was injured.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I have a sense he'll make a comeback then. It's hard to say. I imagine then that they might go with three fast bowlers, three seamers, right? So it might be Siraj, Sharma, and Bumrah if they wanted to do that. And then maybe they drop Kuldeep. I would keep with Akshay if they're thinking like that. I don't think Hardik Pandya is fit enough to bowl.
Yeah, I don't know if he's fully fit to bowl yet. Yeah.
So I don't think he'll make it into the team.
Yeah, Charles agreeing with you. Yeah, expect Bournemouth to come back in the 11 for the third game, and he said, yeah, as well, like you were saying, England should be optimistic. Yeah, I agree with you. I think Akshay Patel will keep his place, and I reckon, yeah, they'll drop Kuldeep because he didn't even bowl that much in this game, to be honest with you, even though it's a spinning track.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll bring in, Bumrah. And I think they'll probably stick to the rest of the team. I mean, they just won. What about from an England point of view? Let's say if Zach Crawley's fit, I'm assuming he's going to come in at 3.
Yeah,
and then it's a question of the bowlers, right?
Yeah, I think Anderson will definitely come in. Broad, they'll have to give it to him. Archer, if he's fit, I'm not sure if he is.
I'm not sure yet, to be fair.
And then it's a question. Then, if you're playing them 3, then you're playing Leach probably. I don't think you need Best then, do you? If you're going to play three seamers and Leach, bit of Stokes.
Yeah, I guess the only issue with that is your tail's quite long, isn't it?
It's true.
Because you got Broad. No, not Broad. Actually, they'd probably put Archer, Broad, Leach, Anderson. That's a pretty weak tail. But they might have to do that to be found in the lights. They're going to play Broad and Anderson together, I think, for sure, as you said. If I guess if Archer's not fit, they'll go with Wokes because then he'll be able to bat a little bit as well, which will be a bit harsh on Ollie Stone because he bowled well. So it'll be they've got a dilemma for sure, I think.
Yeah, I was impressed by Ollie Stone. I thought he held his own. So, but yeah, I don't expect him to play in the next game if Archer's fit.
Yeah, it depends, I think, on how much batting they want, which will be interesting. Which I think that was their main concern. Well, should be their main concern after this one anyway. But Charles says here, to be honest, Akshay should be dropped. Interesting. And Kuldeep if selection is exclusively based on the wicket. So I'm assuming Kuldeep has a good track record in Ahmedabad, considering a Charles saying that. That's interesting. I would assume they're not going to do that just because I'm assuming they're going to go based on the recent performance and Akshay getting runs and also a fifer. I'm assuming they'll stick. It'll be a bit harsh to drop him, but you never know.
No, you don't. I mean, yeah, you'd be losing out again on batting options if you drop Akshay. That would be the issue.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, I think that's all the questions as well. Cash, is there anything you want to touch upon before we wrap up?
No, not really. I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to the next game. Obviously at a different time. It's going to be kind of an all-day experience for us in England. 9 o'clock, I think GMT it starts. So, yeah, I'm just looking forward to it. And it's, you know, it's all to play for. I feel like England are feeling really down at the moment, the Moeen scandal and all that. Need to put it behind us for a little bit and just you know, some good cricket to be played.
100%, 100%. Thanks very much, Cash, for joining as well. Guys, thank you very much for joining the stream. Make sure you do like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much, and I'll see you on the next video. And as I said, and as Cash said, really looking forward to the third test match. Thank you.